Happy to be with you today talking about social media and teens, also along the lines of why it becomes such a volatile area of focus. I'll offer a couple of ideas around some concrete steps you can take starting this weekend to help position yourself to be in a place where you can more effectively have conversations with your teen regarding social media. If you're interested in that, stick around. For those who don't know me, my name is Jenny Wong. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and parent coach. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I'm on a mission to help parents of teens because, for better or for worse, there's just something about parenting teens that is incredibly challenging and also very private for a lot of people. Well, I'm just out here trying to create a space where people can actually say, that we're kind of having a hard time and this is a challenge. And for folks to understand that this doesn't mark a flaw in parenting, that parenting teens is challenging. It marks just what we're up against. And so when you can take away the shame and guilt and self-criticism so that you can actually get into a clearer problem-solving space, it gets a lot easier. So this is tough, though, because the environment, when we talk about parenting and parenting advice, there's a lot of good advice out there, and there's a lot of pressure on parents, and pressure that parents put on themselves, pressure put societally. There's a tremendous amount of morality that gets woven into the way we think of ourselves as parents and what we think then that means that we do. So then you get a book that comes out like Jonathan Haidt's book, which is an excellent book called The Anxious Generation. And he really talks about the way that there's this great rewiring happening in the adolescent brain. And he maps out ways that you can see correlations, not causations, but correlations between anxiety and depression symptoms. And he lays out a map. Where to go from there becomes a little bit trickier. And the reason is embedded in exactly the argument that he lays out. One of the things he talks about social media companies being very adept at monopolizing on is the teen's sense of identity. And if you can understand this, you're going to understand then why it's not so straightforward than to say to your, to your teen son, daughter, we're setting limits now because we don't believe we're learning more and we don't believe this is good for you. Understand, this is not going to be an easy conversation. Now, the slippery slope is that we can start thinking of social media the same way that parents think of alcohol and other drug use. Like it is this toxic thing that only causes problems, and so we just need to keep our kids away from it. If that's how you treat it, I promise you social media and discussions of social media are going to be a no-go in your house. And what your teen will hear is that you have no idea where they're coming from. And why that becomes so important is because of where teens are developmentally. Social media companies are able to monopolize on the identity component because that's what teens are primarily concerned with building during their adolescence and figuring out what exactly that looks like as they go out into the world. And okay, we've been with mom and dad and the rest of the family, but now we're going out in the world and wow, now this isn't just about everyone's value because everyone participates. Now things like evaluation matters. Now there's ranking. Now there's competition. Now, how do you make sense of that and still feel okay about yourself as a human being and stay emotionally regulated in all of that and hit the milestones that you're supposed to hit to be able to then launch into adulthood? It's a lot. So everything our teens hear from us, the first thing, and anywhere in the world, the first thing they're assessing because of where they are developmentally is how much of a threat is whatever I'm looking at now to who I am or what I care about and the things that matter to me. And so one of the first things then that is the biggest alarm bell for them with their parents is when teens feel like their parents do not understand them. Because if you do not understand them, then that translates you don't see them. And if you don't see them, then how good is any of the advice or information going to be coming out of your mouth thereafter? So this is what I want to send you into the weekend with. There are a couple of things, really practical. One relates to empathy building, compassion building for the parents so that you can better understand what is at stake for your child. And, I know there are going to be people who watch this, and some people will comment, well, this should have been started when kids were little and la, la, la. You know what? I will tell you, I've met parents who did what they thought they were supposed to do, and they limited social media. And the problem is that child then is in a context where there are other people who do have social media. That creates a different kind of social jockeying to maneuver. Now, this isn't to say, well, then you need to give access all the time to social media. This is to say, just taking it away isn't the silver bullet. It isn't the magic solution. It just changes then what the landscape is. So please do not chase after social media free spaces with the idea that it makes everything better. It just presents a different set of realities, and you will get further with your teen if you can acknowledge that social media is not to them just an evil. Technology for them is very much embedded into their everyday life. And also, if you look at social media use, you know who's growing in their social media use? Gen Xers and millennials. So this is different than alcohol. This is not the same thing as saying, well, oh well, you're not old enough yet, so just wait. No, because where our teens are is they're initiating themselves and trying to do adulthood light. And so they're developing. And I don't mean to say they're miniature adults. What I'm saying is they're doing their first test run. And as they go through their first test run, what is this version 1.0? What is this beta version of my social being that I want to put out there? That's what they're testing. In the meantime, understand that for them, the stakes are high. The most important thing parents can offer their teens is perspective. You as a parent, at minimum, just before you even teach them anything or give them anything, just you in your existence serve as a minimal baseline for your teen in terms of setting a horizon around what's possible for them. That's where they start first. They don't start first by what we teach them. They start first by their lived experience of us. So, step number one in helping you get a little bit more effective at having this conversation, before you even dare have the conversation, I challenge you to go 24 hours, or if you want to be really cavalier about this, go the whole weekend. No Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok, no Snapchat. No LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is just a fancy social media thing, so none of that. No LinkedIn, no Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok for you for at least 24 hours. And see what that experience is like for you with the fully formed prefrontal cortex, for you with, in theory, a whole identity, for you with more lived experience and perspective who didn't grow up with this technology. Please live it for a weekend. See what it changes about your daily experience. You think, oh, it's not a big deal. It just means I'll do something else. No. See what it does. Because until you can have some empathy and humility, that this isn't just about just saying just say no. Come on, we're not in the 80s anymore. This is about the kind of relationship we have. We have to represent the possibility of the kind of relationship to have with social media. Too much, we are expecting our teens to follow rules because it is the right thing to do when they are surrounded on all sides by all kinds of discussions about alternate truths, alternate realities. That, well, deception is okay in some cases because the other thing is so important. Listen, you are the best example. And parents are in a really tough spot because it's not like there's a lot socially to support us in the boundary setting, right? When we were kids, our parents had the luxury of technology being where it was, which is wherever it was, such that we had to wait a long time before an album got released. We were only aware of the music that came through the radio or MTV or whatever. Those things that we had to wait for the next episode until the next week. Our parents, they were able to do what they do because they had that social support. So we don't have that because we are in a day and age where 24/7, as quick as you can meet your need, that is the standard. So you're fighting an uphill battle. Do not make the battle even more uphill by missing the importance of making sure your teen understands that you get that this isn't easy, that you've lived it, and man, it opened your eyes, right? So that's number one. So that's one place concretely where you can start making a change. Number two, now there are some schools across the country who are starting to implement things in place of no cell phones during the school day. I'm a big supporter of this. So what I would like you to try, you don't have to wait for your teen or for your school district to do this. There's a really simple way that parents can start conditioning their kids to rely less on the phone as a way to reach. There is not a reason that your teen should need to text you during the school day such that if you don't get the message, within the hour, that the world's going to end. There was a day and age when our kids sent us to school and they just assumed we'll be home. And they didn't know what happened between. Parents now, I'm going to my next class. Mom, what about this? Oh, I'm really panicking. I'm feeling really anxious. Okay, but you know what? Where they need to work out how to get that support and that anxiety, for that anxiety then needs to become part of a bigger plan around how do we involve the school to provide more supports. Please don't set yourself up to be a single point of failure for your teen because you're going to lose. And then you're going to feel crap about yourself because you set yourself up to do something that you could never do to begin with. Because the honest truth, as our kids get older, we have less and less control. You know this. It's one thing to say to your 10-year-old, you got to go to school. It's another thing to say to your 17-year-old who's 180 pounds and 6'2", you got to go to school. But here's where the moral piece of it comes in. For many parents believe, well, the right thing to do is I've got to do tough love. So this isn't going to be easy and this conversation is going to be hard and taking social media away is going to be hard, but God damn it, we're going to do it. You're going to fail. And you're going to disrupt the connection that you have with your teen. It does. And so I have some parents who will say to me, well, with school shootings and all of this, that there's no way that I'm going to allow my child to be without a cell phone. I get it. And your teen also needs to learn that they can text you, and that if you don't text back within the hour, they're not going to die. And that they can cope and find other ways to cope, given that they are in a system, at least that has some minimum standard in place, and you can know that they are secure. If you are concerned about your child's safety around school shooting stuff, make sure that you're asking your school to have their notification system, all of that, up to date. But making sure there's always a cell phone in your kid's hand is not the answer, because it creates a different kind of problem. Creating spaces where your teen has to manage life without you is great. The school day is the perfect time to do that. So do it. Because you know what? They might actually have more to say to you at the end of the day too. And all of this stuff is scary. All of this stuff involving how to effectively parent teens is terrifying, because what it ultimately comes down to is needing to let go a little and create a little bit more space, or at least acknowledge the space that's there already. And that's scary, because that's where we become aware of, wow, we really don't have a lot of control. But it is in that space that our teens then start to have the possibility of seeing that we are supportive of them becoming the person that they're becoming. That's how they interpret that space. Now, what's confusing is that teens are very push me, pull you, treat me like an adult. No, I want you to do this for me. So parents are like, which one do you want? Well, the thing is, they're working that out. So parents expect teens to be very logical about this. They're working it out. So this is where Gen Xers, millennials, we have to stay grounded. These are the kids we raised. We taught them to feel their feelings. And we taught them that there's room for their feelings. And so you know what? They expect us to figure out, well, they're feeling this way. We need to be able to treat it that it's not a crisis. If your child is anxious at school, how valuable it is for them to learn that there are other resources other than parents and family. That's huge. These are the things that are the building blocks to launching. So you think that cell phone and answering that text back immediately isn't a big deal. It is. Just that act of 6 hours where they're not worried about checking in with you, and they know you're not going to get back to them because you assume that things will be fine. That if they need you to be in touch with you, then have the school reach out. It starts to create more space and more autonomy. And look, there's no one sweet spot. So for some families, this might be, son or daughter, it'll be 30 minutes at least before I write you back. Some other families will be able to do this in a more thorough or more broader way. And it really depends on the specific child you're dealing with, the parent you're dealing with, where that family is in the moment, and what's happening for other people in the family. Sometimes families don't have all the juice to give to a specific effort. So, I know I'll post this, and then there are going to be a lot of judgmental comments that come out of this, what I'm saying, of each other. People are horrible to each other. And so this requires some leadership. Everyone thinks they can tell everyone else better how to do something. I'm just telling you, this is tough. And here are some ways that you might get a little bit more traction with your teen. There's nothing that is an easy answer to this. Taking social media away, not a silver bullet. No, no, no. Because it is very much embedded with their identity. So what we need to do is to change their relationship to social media and understanding that it isn't just a teen problem with social media. It is a societal issue in terms of, look at Twitter or X, look at any of these spaces. When you allow open commenting, open saying whatever behind, and you don't know where the other person is, and you're not having to do it face to face. Wow, that is an invitation for just awfulness to each other. It's not a teen problem. So please don't disillusion yourself with this idea that this is just, oh, these kids. No. Oh my God, society. That's where we are. So please, start with you. If you have a hard time not knowing what's happening with your kid over a 3-hour period, let's say, and that's too anxiety provoking to you, how easy is it going to be for your teen to separate from you? These are tough questions. And I ask these questions knowing, as a mother myself, that this hurts like hell, because there is no easy answer, no matter what. The biggest antidote to a lot of this is compassion and patience and understanding that there is no easy answer. So if you can remember that this is an ongoing process, that it's not like we did all the work for our kids for the first half and now we just plunk them in and they're good to go for their teen years. No, they're still figuring out a ton, and they need different things from us, not the same stuff from the first half. So if you're interested in learning about those things, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, check out the other videos in my profile. If you want to work with me directly, click on the link in my profile. You can schedule a free 15-minute call. There are ways to get yourself oriented so that you can start these endeavors with your teens from the right page. Because if you are not on the same page, then you start to work at cross purposes and start to actually do damage. So don't be alone. And please don't sit in shame, because there's no shame. Look, if you are a parent who says, yes, I'm a parent and I am taking responsibility for this job of parenting, then you have no shame. Because, oh my God, what a noble aspiration. Because this is an impossible profession that we're in the middle of, right? So have some grace, take a breath. This weekend, figure out what your own relationship to social media is. So that's my challenge to you. No TikTok, no Facebook, no Instagram, no LinkedIn. For you as an adult, for the whole weekend, see what that does for you. Then have the conversation with your teen. All right, it's been good talking with you guys. I will talk with you soon. Reach out if you have any questions. All right, take care.